President Bola Tinubu has returned to Abuja earlier than planned after cutting short his working visit in Europe, and this is already stirring a lot of talk across Nigeria. People are asking, why did the president rush back? What exactly is going on? Now, my people, let me explain this to you in simple terms because there are many angles to this matter. As I break it down, please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss any update. When a president cuts his trip and returns home ahead of schedule, it usually means there is something urgent waiting on the ground. In this case, President Tinubu is coming back at a time when Nigeria is facing many sensitive issues. There is the matter of Rivers State, where a political crisis earlier in the month forced the federal government to step in with emergency rule. The emergency rule was later lifted and the suspended governor was supposed to be reinstated. That kind of situation can easily overheat, so the president needs to be around to manage it carefully. That is one of the reasons people believe he could not stay away any longer. But that's not the only fire burning. In the north, reactions are rising. Some northern leaders are sounding warnings, others are expressing shock, and the language being used is very strong. There are voices saying that if the government goes ahead with certain controversial appointments, especially in very sensitive places like the Electoral Commission, then Nigeria may be heading into a very dangerous zone. These warnings are not things to just laugh off, because when respected figures in politics speak in this manner, it reflects the level of tension already in the air. Now, I want you to think about this. Nigeria has faced insecurity challenges for years, from banditry to insurgency to communal clashes. Adding political mistrust on top of that can create a storm. That's why you hear some commentators warning about the risk of serious unrest. But my people, let's also be clear. Using a word like civil war should not be taken with a pinch of salt. Watch this carefully. Don't push decisions. What leaders are really doing is sending a strong message to the president. Don't break national trust. It is more of a warning sign than a prediction. And please, as I am giving you this gist, don't forget to like the video right now and subscribe so you always get the real updates as they drop. Another big part of the matter is about INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission. Everybody knows elections are the heartbeat of democracy. If people do not trust the electoral body, then every election will be a crisis. That is why there is so much noise about who gets appointed there. If the wrong person or a person seen as too close to power is chosen, it can shake the foundation of trust for 2027 and beyond. Northern voices especially are raising alarm because they believe credibility is everything. And let me tell you, history has shown this. Whenever elections are seen as unfair, tensions rise, protests follow, and peace becomes hard to manage. Now, let's step back a bit. Why do northern leaders often react so strongly? It is because the region carries many grievances already. They talk about resource distribution, they talk about poverty, insecurity, and unemployment, and they often feel like decisions at the center do not favor them. So when they see any political move that looks like sidelining the north or strengthening one side against the other, it becomes an emotional issue. That's the background behind the heavy words we are hearing right now. But here's the truth. Nigeria is bigger than one region. Leaders need to sit down and talk instead of threatening. Citizens too must be wise. Don't allow yourself to be dragged into fear or hate speech. Instead, demand transparency, demand fairness, and always share calls for peace, not panic. And while we're on that, please like this video and subscribe, because your support keeps us going and ensures more people get this kind of balanced information. Tinubu's return, the Rivers crisis, the northern warnings, the INEC controversy, all of them are signs that the political atmosphere is very fragile. But fragile does not mean broken. What happens next depends on the choices of the leaders and the awareness of the people. That's why you watching this right now need to stay informed, not misinformed. All right, let's continue the gist in that same smooth flow. Remember, as I'm breaking it down, don't forget to like this video and subscribe because your engagement keeps us going and helps more Nigerians hear the truth without panic. Now, let's talk about what this really means for ordinary Nigerians. Sometimes, when political leaders exchange tough words, it can feel like the country is about to scatter. But in reality, these battles are often about power, influence, and control of institutions. What matters to you at home is whether policies improve your daily life, food prices, security on the road, jobs for the youth. That's why, instead of letting heavy headlines scare you, it is better to pay attention to what the leaders are actually doing, not only what they are saying. For example, if the president returns early, one of the most important things he must do now is rebuild trust. That means addressing the northern concerns directly, calling meetings with governors, with traditional rulers, with civil society to show that nobody is being sidelined. It also means handling the River State issue with fairness, because whatever happens there can set an example for other states. A peaceful settlement here will calm nerves elsewhere. And let's not forget, elections are just 2 years away in 2027. That's why there is so much focus on INEC. Whoever controls or influences INEC can shape the atmosphere of the entire election. Nigerians have seen what happens when elections are disputed. Tensions rise, courts are flooded with petitions, and protests follow. So the warning from the north is basically, don't set the country on fire by putting the wrong person there. Whether you agree or not, you can see why people are nervous. But I tell you this, it is not just the president's responsibility, it is also yours as citizens. You must hold leaders accountable with your voice, peacefully. Demand open hearings when someone is nominated to high office. Share information from credible sources, not from rumors on WhatsApp groups. And most importantly, avoid spreading messages that can make tensions worse. Remember, words have power. A single reckless post can fuel fear in thousands of people. So, here's my advice. Stay calm, stay alert, and don't fall for fear-mongering. Nigeria has passed through difficult moments before and survived. What we need now is wisdom, patience, and leadership that listens. If the leaders play politics responsibly and citizens stay united, there will be no breakdown. And for you watching, please like this video and subscribe, because the more we share calm, fact-based talk like this, the more we reduce panic and increase understanding.
Now, 2027 is already on the mind of every politician in Nigeria. Even though it looks far, behind the scenes, calculations have started. The North wants to make sure it has strong bargaining power when that time comes. The South, especially the Southwest, where President Tinubu comes from, wants to hold on to power and prove that it can govern effectively. This is where the fight over appointments, especially in INC, becomes very strategic. Whoever has influence there will have leverage in 2027. For the North, the fear is simple. If the institutions are controlled by one side, then the playing field won't be level. That's why you hear warnings. That's why you see heavy words like shock and civil war. It is not that anybody is ready to start fighting. It is that they want to signal how serious the stakes are. It's the politics of pressure. On the other side, Tinubu and his team know they cannot afford chaos. They know the economy is struggling, insecurity is still biting, and Nigerians are watching closely. If the government is seen as favoring one region too much, it could weaken Tinubu's support before the next election. So his early return is also about showing presence to calm the political waters, to manage this crisis himself, and to remind everyone that the presidency is still in control. When you put all this together, the gist is this. Nigeria is entering a season of power games, and both North and South are setting their positions early. That's why the language feels so hot. But my people, please, don't let the noise scare you. What will decide 2027 is not threats. It is negotiation, alliances, and at the end, the votes of Nigerians. So here is where you, the viewer, must be wise. Watch how leaders talk now, because it shows who really has the country at heart and who is just playing for their own interests. Hold them to their words. And again, don't forget to like this video and subscribe right now, because in the months ahead, you need clear breakdowns like this to separate truth from political drama.